In a gap between two major storms that have and will impact Central Florida, BioReconstruct has given us a mind-blowing amount of new content of Orlando's newest theme park, Universal Epic Universe. Inside of this update, rain did not fill the water features around the park. Clear water has filled the central water feature for the first time. The Kong sign has been installed at Donkey Kong's Treehouse in Super Nintendo World. And inside of the new Wizarding World, the turrets have been topped behind the land, along with a butterbeer cart being placed, and the Phoenix has risen above the streets of Paris. All of this and more on this week's Universal Epic Universe Construction Update, with our aerial views provided to us as always by BioReconstruct. Before we jump into this week's update though, I would like to take a second and ask everyone watching this update if they are able to donate to the Hurricane Relief Fund for the American Red Cross. The suffering these people in western North Carolina and surrounding areas are going through is absolutely heartbreaking. The devastation in these communities is astounding, and living in a mountain town myself, I know how much of a tight-knit community we live in. Not only do people in North Carolina need our help, but Orlando and Central Florida friends will soon be facing their own storm with massive flooding potentials. So please, if you are able, take a moment and donate to the fund below, because every dollar makes a difference in alleviating the hardship these communities are and will go through. Now back to Orlando and the construction site of the newest and most hyped theme park, Epic Universe. Well, specifically just south of Epic Universe, at the new off-site hotels of Stella Nova and Terra Luna resorts. With just about 15 weeks left until Universal opens Stella Nova to the public, trucks can be seen making deliveries at the truck dock. This is likely for furniture and other decor for the hotel. The colored concrete that has been poured for the last several updates around the pool area at Stella Nova looks to be just about completed. All that is to remain is small landscaping to finish up the resort's pool. Out front, opposite to the pool, a lot of landscaping has been planted, filling in many of the recently empty voids in the sea of blacktop. Next door, at Terra Luna, the pool area construction still lags behind Stella Nova. Since Stella Nova is wrapping up construction outside, Terra Luna should start to pick up the pace to catch up in time for its opening in just about 19 weeks. Since we are now officially in spooky season, let's take a look and see what is going on inside of Dark Universe. Just behind the entry portal to the land, inside of the graveyard, landscaping looks to be nearly complete around the headstones and statues. Landscaping looks to be making its way inside of Darkmoor, inside of several of the smaller gardens along the storefronts. At the tallest part of the village, at the bell tower, new broken shutters have been installed. Below, in the village center, the well frame has started to be themed. Inside of the dark forest, around Curse of the Werewolf, tall posts have been installed around one of the loops of the coaster. These posts look to be for safety netting that is similar to the netting found at Flight of the Hippogriff inside of Islands of Adventure. Frankenstein's Manor is currently very hard to see due to the sheer amount of scaffolding that is installed around the central spire during final painting and theming. In the back of the land, at Burning Blades Tavern, what looks like a menu board has been installed in front of this entrance. At the base of the windmill on the roof of the tavern, several small lights have been installed to illuminate the windmill at night. Next door, at Super Nintendo World, in front of the entry portal to the land, the colorful concrete is making progress as the star is all that is left to be formed. On the ground between the entry portal and Atlantic, warp pipe framing is staged for the last pipe on top of the entry portal. As guests enter the upper levels of the land, they walk through Peach's castle, which has had its central main turret installed. This turret is currently having detailed work completed during this flight. The extra large piranha plant we saw on the ground last time out has had its home on the corner of the upper level between the stairs to the lower level of the land and the Goomba rolling activity. Nearby at Bowser's Fortress, pieces of Bowser's face can be seen lifted into place. We are actually able to see the before and after of this process, which is very cool to see. Next to Bowser's face is the exit to the Mario Kart ride, which is currently surrounded in scaffolding. Through the scaffolding, we are able to see several areas of sculpted blocks being worked on. Underneath Mount Beanpole, at Yoshi's Adventure, the warp pipe that the vehicles travel through before reaching the final scene has begun to be painted green. Several of the Yoshis have been covered in plastic to protect them from any overspray during this process. Inside of the final scene, I thought it would be fun to point out the mini Yoshi that's blowing a bubblegum pink Yoshi. Below the ride track, at the bottom of the land, a new piranha plant has been installed behind the character meet and greet kiosk. Around the opening in the wall of the land walking under Yoshi's Adventure track, we can see that the stonework is being painted gold. This pathway leads guests to and from Donkey Kong Country. Inside of Donkey Kong Country, there are several trees being planted inside of the island gardens that are spread throughout the land inside of the pathways. Near the entrance to this mini-land is the crashed plane of Funky's Flying By gift shop, where the edges of the plane are beginning to receive detailed trim. Donkey Kong's treehouse is the home of the character meet and greet for this mini-land. This update, the Kong sign has been installed above the entrance, along with several colored walls being installed with it. Next door, at the Bubbly Barrel snack stand, the awning for the order window has been installed. A little further down the pathway is the entrance to Minecart Madness, which initial theming looks nearly complete and appears that painting will begin soon. Inside of the outdoor queue for the coaster, poles for the queue are now being installed. Along the tracks of the coaster, one of the smaller screaming pillars is now completely surrounded in scaffolding, with the larger pillars starting to be surrounded. This is likely just for final painting and theming. Across Celestial Park sits the faraway land of Burk, where the top of the entry portal has now been covered in scaffolding once again. In front of the entry portal, the concrete walls are beginning to take shape, which gives us the layout of how the pathways will be around this part of the park. The large lagoon that greets guests as they enter Burk has clear water inside of it for the first time. A few feet from the lagoon sits the kids' playground of Viking Training Camp, which has had a third level added to one of the sections of the playground. This third level is in the tower closest to the bathrooms on this side of the park. There are several other new detailed sections that have been installed as well. Between Viking Training Camp and the snack stand of Grog and Gruel, a themed fence has been installed. Inside of the spinning flat rides of Dragon Racers Rally, the maze of queue cover framing continues to grow as we get closer to seeing the tent tops installed. On the right ride, additional tall posts have been installed, which could be for more visual barriers. Over the hedge, into the queue for Hiccup's winged gliders, the rock spires have been covered in scaffolding as painting is beginning. The queue covering for this coaster is starting to be prepared for the cover, as seen by the horizontal rope or wire supports being threaded through the steel beams. On the other corner of the land sits the feeder show of the Untrainable Dragon. The entrance area to this show building has seen tremendous progress in the theming since our last flight. The exit for the show is getting closer and closer to paint as theming continues to be added. Between the show building for the Untrainable Dragon and the target boat ride of Fire Drill, new dragon houses have been installed on pedestals. Inside of the queue for Fire Drill, the tent tops have finally been installed, which has given the queue for Fire Drill the finished look. Inside of the ride path, a new rope strung from 2 pillars has been placed. This marks the end of the targets, and this is also where the twins are sitting in barrel boats ready to blast guests with water cannons. Overlooking Fire Drill is the outdoor seating area for Spitfire Grill. This area has seen its first concrete work with the completion of the forms for the first pour. Update after update, when talking about the new wizarding world of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, I felt like I was a broken record stuck on repeat. There's not a lot going on. There's only a few small changes to go over. Most of the work is happening inside of the buildings. Well, that has all changed, especially with this update, where to date there are the most changes to go over. Starting off, just behind the entry portal in the courtyard that guests enter before entering the streets, there are small lanterns that have been installed on top of the walls that shuttle guests left or right out of the entry portal. Passing through the replica archway before entering the streets has had a new addition on the back side of the structure. The phoenix that we saw on the ground being prepared last update has since been lifted into its new home high above the streets of Paris. Throughout all 5 of the streets, several new light posts have been installed, along with awnings for several of the storefronts. Near the 5 street intersection is the candy shop in the land. This is located where the pink storefront is. If you look closely at the windows of the candy shop, you are actually able to see displays already in place. Something that I found comical is that next to the candy shop is a hanging set of dentures off of the facade, which is the sign for the dentist. Directly inside of the intersection is the entrance for the land's theater show, which has seen additional tent work taking place on the entrance. The walls of the tent have been added, along with work on the entrance where framing can be seen. Underneath of the butterbeer billboard, trees have been planted inside of the tree wells as the gardens are starting to be planted. The third entrance for the hidden courtyard is also in this area and can be seen here. Speaking of the hidden courtyard, we also have our best look inside of this courtyard to date during this flight. On the other end of the land, working towards the entrance to the feature ride, Battle of the Ministry, a new butterbeer cart has been placed ready to serve guests. At the entrance to the Battle of the Ministry, the theming work on the metro flue continues slowly. High above the streets behind the land, the turrets have been placed in the forced perspective view that guests will see when they are at street level. These turrets have been worked on at ground level for the last several updates. Seen in the background are a number of bluish-green posts, which are the light poles that have yet to be installed around Celestial Park. Overlooking the streets of Paris is the Helios Grand Hotel, where out back in the pool area, a lot of concrete has been poured, along with trees being planted in the gardens, giving this pool area a closer to completed look. The top of the pool bar that was being built on the ground has also been lifted into place, like the turrets at the Wizarding World. On top of the hotel, at the base of the main dome, new lights have been installed which will illuminate the dome at night. In the shadows of the Helios Grand sits the Blue Dragon Pan-Asian Restaurant, where grass has been planted in several gardens in front of this dining location. Just on the other side of the pathway is the park's main show fountain, which on the Dark Universe side of the fountain looks like a finished theme park, minus a few plants needing planted here or there. The roofs of the kiosk on the edge of the fountain closest to Astronomica have had their roofing completed. Astronomica, on the other hand, is nearing completion of its paint job. On the other side of the fountain, at Meteor Astropub, the brickwork on the north end of the building continues. Out front near the rotunda, colorful concrete is making progress in two areas. One closest to the show fountain, which looks completed, and the other closer to the entrance to Stardust Racers. Between Meteor Astropub and Stardust Racers, in a garden area, there looks to be patio lighting being hung from one of the trees. This seems very odd that these are being hung now, but there could be some sort of an event Universal is doing. On our way to Stardust Racers, progress is being made to the entrance sign for the coaster. Just inside of the entry courtyard, workers can be seen installing pathway lighting on the outside of the courtyard. On top of the entrance tunnel, new flower vines are being placed to make the covering that we have seen in art as well as the model in the preview center. Out back in the extended queue area, we can see a new circular gate that has been installed, which is for an extension of the extended queue area. Just outside of this area, we can see what looks like framing for the queue covering ready to be installed in the coming weeks. In the center of Celestial Park is the central water feature, which is also the home of Constellation Carousel. Inside of the water feature, it is currently filled with clear water for the first time. So clear, in fact, that I had to find the right picture just to be able to prove there is water in there. Inside of the colorful dome of Constellation Carousel, the white construction scrims have been removed from around the ride platform. However, looking inside, it is too dark to confirm, but it does not look like as though any of the ride vehicles have been installed yet. The kiosk directly next to Celeste Tiki Bar has had its roofing detail completed, while Celeste Tiki Bar looks to be next for roofing. Looking around Celestial Park at several of the light poles, I have noticed that some of them have this gold base to them. Once I saw the base, I started looking at the rest of the light poles and their foundations, and came to the conclusion that the bluish green light poles will indeed have these golden bases installed around them. Closer to the entrance to Super Nintendo World is the mixed building of the Super Nintendo World store, as well as the dining location of Pizza Moon. The sign for Pizza Moon has been installed. Is anyone else craving some overpriced pizza now? I definitely am. On the other side of the Super Nintendo World portal, Atlantic is still surrounded by scaffolding, where workers can be seen installing detailed trim on the tops of the walls. At the Phase 2 dining locations, scaffolding has surrounded the entire building, as framing studs can be seen placed before sheathing is attached to the exterior of the building. Several small garden areas can also be seen taking shape around the foundation and the edge of the walkways of these dining locations. Over the cascading waterfalls that greets guests as they enter Celestial Park, the pathway on the island in the center of the waterfalls has been poured. In the center of the pathway, there looks like there will be another small garden. At the base of Luna Overlook, there has been a lot of rockwork sculpting taking place on either side of the large statue. Above Luna Overlook, glass is being installed at one of the domes off the entrance support buildings. All four of these domes on the Celestial Park side of the entrance support buildings will have this glass dome look. This leads us to the entrance of Epic Universe, where the colorful concrete has made it to the base of the Kronos Tower. There are just a few small sections left to pour, which can be seen ready to receive concrete. Workers can be seen inside of the Kronos Tower preparing for the next concrete pour. Throughout the entry courtyard to Celestial Park, additional trees have been planted. Inside of the bus loop, work on the bus shelters has begun, with several receiving their initial roofing, and several that are just a bare frame still. Inside of the massive parking lot for Epic Universe, preparation is underway for a new section of parking lot, which looks like it will hold around 100 vehicles. At $27 per day, parking could bring in up to $2,700 in parking fees per day, or over $900,000 per year. That's a lot of money for just a small area. With that, this wraps up this week's Universal Epic Universe Construction Update. Once again, a big thanks to BioReconstruct for his continued aerial views of the park. And remember, if you're able, please consider donating to the American Red Cross Hurricane Relief Fund. If Universal will be bringing in just over $900,000 in just 100 parking spots at Epic Universe, what would they bring in the entire parking lot? In this video, I break down the parking lots and estimate how much Universal will make in parking alone at Epic Universe. So be sure to watch it. And until next time, have a great one.